So now we're going to hear the reports of the local Sanghas. We seem to be moving quite speedily. That's we might be able to end the day sooner than we expected, but still we are right on time, and I'll hand it over to our sister Fab Lan. She will report on both the correspondence, Buddhist correspondence course, and the Texas Sangha. Fab?
Well, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here as always. I wanted to start with the Buddhist correspondence course. I noticed when I look out at the group that many of you are mentors, so you know all about it, but I'm going to tell a little bit anyhow. That the Buddhist correspondence course was begun in 2005, January of 2005, as a joint effort between the Buddhist Association of the United States and the High On Pagoda in Connecticut, where Tai was the abbot at that time. So you can see that our teacher has been intimately involved since the very beginning, and he continues as the spiritual director to this day. So now in 2020, the course is being sponsored by the Buddhist Association of the United States, the BAUS, and our temple, Phap Nguyen Temple in Pearland, Texas. The BAUS funds all the books that we use in the course, as well as reimbursing volunteers like me for all the postage and office supplies that it takes to run the course. Because of course the inmates, being inmates, cannot use the internet. So they don't have email, and so we have to use the United States Postal Service. So all the correspondence between us and the inmates back and forth is all done by postal mail, and it's a lot. So Richard and Adrian Baxa were ordained as Dharma teachers by Tai, and they were members of the first DTO graduating class. And later they were both ordained as lay priests in the DTO. Richard developed the curriculum of the Buddhist correspondence course as we know it today, and he and Adrian ran the course as a dynamic duo until 2018, at which time they decided to begin moving toward retirement. That's all they're ever going to do, move toward retirement, just so you know. But so in 2018, I started my training with the Baxas, and John was not far behind. So now, John and I are doing the lion's share of the work, but the Baxas continue to be very involved in the course, and they are wonderful mentors to John and me. And Richard is on the board of the Buddhist Association of the United States, and he also retains his role as director of the Buddhist correspondence course. I think most of you know how it works. Basically, it's obviously a correspondence course. There's Richard and along with Tai and other monks have chosen books for the course. There's like 6 books. The inmates receive written assignments, and they respond to that. Send them back to me, I send them to the mentors reviews them, sends that back to me, I send it back to the inmates, and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting exchange. It's really mind-boggling for me to think of all the thousands of prisoners who have had the opportunity to study the Dharma with a mentor. That's what's so awesome. And that's all due to the vision and the hard work of Tai, Adrian, Richard, the BAUS, and the hundreds of mentors who have served during the past 16 years. So it's really a group effort, and it's been powerful. In addition to offering the course to prisoners, we publish a quarterly newsletter that's by and for the students in the Buddhist correspondence course. It's a great newsletter. An amazing group of volunteers do a wonderful job of producing that beautiful newsletter, filled with articles, poems, and artwork submitted by the students themselves. So it's about the only way that inmates can connect with one another and share the Dharma directly with one another. There's also a section in the newsletter called Ask Your Sangha. So people can actually ask questions and get responses from other inmates. So it's really, really great. And it's a very popular. They pass it all around, and a lot of people find out about us that way. So right now, you know, I'm not the numbers cruncher, so don't cringe, John. So I'm just going to give approximates right now because that's all I do. Right now, we have approximately 511 students and 85 mentors. Some of those mentors are phasing out, but they're active, you know, at this time. We're really grateful to the current mentors who took on additional students to help whittle down our extensive waiting list. And so thanks to your generosity of spirit, I was able to get 26 inmates off the waiting list and enrolled in the course. We've also welcomed 3 new mentors who have agreed to mentor 5 students each. So since I sent out that appeal last month, 41 inmates have been removed from the waiting list and have been enrolled in the course. So that's pretty awesome. So thank you for being willing to serve in this way. We do have some more openings for students now, and as soon as I have a spare moment, I will be filling those positions. And once I do that, I think the waiting list will be very manageable. So that's very good. So please get in touch with me if you're interested in being a mentor, if you're not already one. And I think you'll find it very fulfilling for you and for your students. And I did want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who was giving me this unbelievable opportunity to be involved in this program. Nothing I ever imagined would ever happen. And I'm just very grateful. And it's really a privilege of a lifetime. So thank you there. So let me roll right into the Texas Sangha. What we've been up to for the past year, and during this pandemic in particular, since April, we had our first lockdown in, you know, late March, I think, or mid-March in our area. And it took me a couple weeks to get a brain cell functioning and start the Zoom. But we have, since April, we've been having a Wednesday evening meditation via Zoom. And at first it was just our little group, and then we just opened up to the National Sangha and all the mentors. Since I have all those contact lists, it's so nice. And, you know, every week some people join us from all over the place, and some from Sri Lanka and even as far away as Sri Lanka. So we have, you know, regulars, and then we have drop-ins from time to time. It's great. And it's just really fun to be able to, as I think, I don't know, Elena was saying, how we've got people from all over. It's not just people from our little area. We have people come from New York and Connecticut and Costa Rica and Sri Lanka and just all of Connecticut and everywhere. So it's really nice. And also gives us an opportunity for our old Sangha members who have moved on to other places, like Alex, for example, to join us for that too. So Zoom does have its many blessings. So we're still doing that, and I share that with everybody, and you're welcome to join us anytime. We do, it's for an hour, from 6:30 to 7:30 Central Time. We chant the Om Mani Padme Hum. We do a short sit. We have a Dharma talk and a discussion, and we would love to have you. And we record those talks when I do it right, and share it with you also in case you want to hear that later on. The other thing we're doing on Zoom is we're having all of our DTO classes on Zoom, and that's working out really well. In Texas, we're on studying the books in year 2, and we just finished the Tree of Enlightenment. Right now we have 10 regular class members, regular as clockwork. We have 2 year 1 students, 3 year 2 students, a 1 year 3 student. And then we have our 2 Dharma teachers, which is John and Thap Lin. And we also have a couple of regulars who are audit students. So it's, you know, it's working great. I love it. You know, we want to be in person, you know, how there's nothing that can beat that. But, you know, we're carrying on just fine during this pandemic, and it's very gratifying. Our community outreach has changed somewhat, of course. We're very prison program at our Sangha has we've had to stop part of it for the time being. Due to COVID, we haven't visited our 2 prison sanghas in person since March. They're all still on lockdown and no visitors or volunteers are allowed. I keep in touch with a few of the guys from the Luther unit in Navasota, Texas, and Sandra corresponds with some of the guys at the Huntsville unit in Huntsville, Texas. So we're keeping in touch with our group as much as we can. They cannot mingle together, but we can, keep in touch with several of them. And I will say this: when I fell off the ladder and got injured, was the guys in our Sangha in Luther unit. It took them about 2 months to somehow surreptitiously pass around a get well card. I don't know how they did that. I'm sure they traded some soup packets or something for that to get somebody to carry it from person to person. But they did that so that was a joint effort. It was very cute. They sent me a get well card. So, they try to get together somehow, but it's been hard. We hope to, and we'll definitely go back whenever it's safe to do so. In the Buddhist correspondence course is the other activity in our community outreach we're especially proud of. And as you know, that Ty is a spiritual director. I serve as a course administrator, and I'm also responsible for responding to letters from prisoners who write to the BAUS with questions about Buddhism or who are requesting other kinds of information like legal help or Buddhist resources and, state centers, stuff like that. John, thank goodness, writes all the computer programs, which he's working on an amazing online program for the course that's going to make my life 100% easier. And it's getting there. It's almost ready. He's working on the BCC website, and I'm going to send that link out to everybody so you can look at it. He's takes care of all the IT issues, of course. He keeps track of all the data. He also works with the BAUS on making sure the course books are ordered for students and mentors. So we're busy, and we're really proud that quite a few members of the Texas Sangha, past and present, currently serve as mentors in the Buddhist correspondence course. And we have 11 active members, active mentors from our Texas group right now. The other thing we do annually is sponsor Buddhist Global Relief and participate in the Walk to Feed the Hungry on an annual basis. Of course, due to COVID, those walks did not take place this year, but Bhikkhu Bodhi is always inventive. So they had a fundraising event still called Buddhist Action to Feed the Hungry. So we still got to participate in that annual fundraising event, and I'm sure many of you did too in your local areas. And several of us were able to attend the Houston online gathering on October 11th, which was really great. So that's about it for Texas, and unless anybody else in our Sangha has something to add that I forgot. Going? Gone, okay. So that's it for Texas for this year. Thank you so much.
That was an awesome report. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions for our sister? Okay, so now Fernando is going to report on New York.
Okay, so the New York Sangha, as most of you are aware, hold our classes at the Marindale Retreat Center. We obviously stopped having on-site classes in, I believe, March, and have been doing virtual classes after that, but we had a hiatus over a few months in which we had no classes. We just held classes on meditation because we felt that were important during this time. And we did our usual Buddhist Christian dialogues that we do twice a year. One was on Thomas Merton, and the other one was in a book uh, called Christian Zen by a Jesuit priest. And then we started in September with our class. So our classes, because they are held in the Mariandale Retreat Center, we mirror our usual classes for the DTO, but we change them a little bit to make it accessible for people who just wants to audit the class. And so so we're doing the second year, more or less covering the books of the second year. But we entitle it Eastern Wisdom for Today's Times, to try to make it relevant for people in that community. We have about 8 to 10 people that are involved in the class. 2 of them who are in the DTO official class, and all the others are people who are more or less auditing the class. Our classes are a little different because they're taught by the Dharma teachers, and they're based on the Buddhist concepts, with the readings being an elective part of the course. So it's a little bit different way of trying to teach the Dharma that we're trying to experiment with. So that is a year-long kind of course covering all the major sutras that we study. And then we're also teaching 2 other courses. One is a 4-session course called The Way of the Bodhisattva that we're doing once a month from January to April. And another course starting in May, a 4-session course, again, held monthly, on mysticism, East and West, in which we're going to try to compare mysticism through the eyes of the East and through the eyes of Western mystics. We also continue to have twice a year, like we mentioned, the Buddhist Christian dialogues. And we have also a bunch of meditation sessions that we do at the center, teaching Buddhist meditation. We still have a nucleus of people that are working hard and trying to teach the Dharma. And what we're doing is, through the virtue of Zoom, trying to also reach out to students who normally wouldn't be able to reach our classes to join us from the distance. And this year, this works very well. And I think Zoom is going to be here to stay with us. But that's it for New York.
So I'm going to piggyback on New York. Thank you, Fernando. I'm talking about the New York City and sort of virtual world, New York. So throughout this pandemic, I haven't, of course, like everyone else, not been able to meet with the Sangha that was growing and burgeoning in Pennsylvania. So I've been continue to have the meditations via Zoom, and every other Friday. So that part of New York Sangha work is still happening, and also this part of New York City continues to provide guidance and meditation and loving kindness through Zoom to staff of the state of New York that, we meet like once a month with the employee assistance program, and we offer a 45 minutes meditation either Thursday or Friday during the day when everyone is supposed to be at work. So the participation is quite good, and people have expressed gratitude for the opportunity to learn meditation and to practice meditation. And then for next year, my hope is that I will be able to launch a meditation Spanish class. So I'm going to be reaching out to everyone that's in our national virtual Sangha to please help me disseminate the information on the Spanish. And the reason why I was motivated to do this is because when with the group from Pennsylvania, these members or these people have relatives and friends in other countries. So I'm invariably being joined by people from Mexico and Costa Rica and Guatemala and Nicaragua, a couple of people from Ecuador, and from different places in Latin America, and even in New York City, in New York, people who don't quite speak English. And so I find that they try to engage, and they do, in the practices, but I'm always lately trying to translate and do both, and I find that distracting. So I want to deliver something that is exclusively Spanish for everyone that has limited English ability. So I will be reaching out to everyone. I hope to do this maybe by late January. I have to still work it in my mind. It's been in the works up here for a few months. I hope to get it down out of there and put it to practice. So I will count on your kindness and generosity and ability to communicate, so that in case anyone that speaks Spanish and wants to engage, they are welcome to do that. So I will appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Oh, may I say something?
Sure, Tate.
About the Spanish group, that is a wonderful idea. And I think you get a lot of support. First of all is our Fernando, and then Noble Silent, and Theo, and Janet, and the whole Miami Sangha. So you got a lot of support. Great idea. So I pray that your plan will be realized soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Tate. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support.
Remember that Noble Silence has written a book of meditation in Spanish, right? So that could be a real good source. I read through that book, and I think it's really, really useful.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Fernando. I read the book as well, and I found it very inspirational. And he and I discussed it a lot for a while. So I think I'm gonna take some pearls of wisdom from there and put it to work. Thank you. Okay, the next Sangha is our dear Sangha from Connecticut. And I just want to say before Craig comes on, I want to express my deepest gratitude to Greg for his support and always being there. He and I have worked together all the time to get this Zoom national virtual meeting going. And so thank you so much, Greg. Now it's your turn to report on your Connecticut Sangha.
Okay, you're very welcome, Elena. It's been my pleasure. So anyway, I'm Craig from Connecticut, and I'm giving the report to the mini retreat for Connecticut. It may not be complete. Both Michelle and Richard were unable to attend, so I'm elected. So I'll start with what our 2019-2020 year was like. We were working with the year one curriculum, which is Old Path, White Cloud, Heart of the Buddhist Teachings, and Keys, Concise History of Buddhism, Eightfold Path, and Women in Buddhism. We met in person 13 times, and then we had to stop meeting in person in March because of concerns over the pandemic. Our practice attendance was pretty good historically. We had ranged from 7 to 16 people over the course of the year, with the average being 11.5 people. We had, after we shut down in person, we had 2 virtual practices, and then many of us participated in the 6 national practices that went on through July. For the last 4 years, we've rented space at a Unitarian church in West Hartford. Quite a beautiful space that we all miss not being able to visit, but because of the pandemic, obviously we're not going there. But we've been in touch with them, and they've been very gracious about welcoming us back when it's possible to come back. And all of our equipment, cushions, and all such things they're allowing us to keep there at no charge. So they've been very accommodating. We had, last year was a little bit unusual. We had an unusually high number of people completing the Dharma Studies course. We had 5 people last year. The year before we had 1 person, Jeff. And so 5 people is historically high. There was Janet Crocker, Richard Downey, Tom McNally, Ted Rasmussen, and me, all graduated. And oddly, that left a large void. We have no actual students in our program right now. But we did have 5 new people start at the beginning of 2020 attending regularly. So that's great news, and they're a wonderful addition to our Sangha, and hopefully they will continue to attend and other people will join them. So our 2020-2021 year has been unusual, as I'm sure everybody else's has been. During the 2019-2020 year, our leadership team developed a program of study intended to explore topics that might be relevant to Dharma teachers, Dharma practitioners, teachers, and future teachers. So Richard Zippoli was the main driving force behind this, and he summarized this, the potential benefits of this training to provide a vehicle for the ongoing development of teaching and leadership skills, while also promoting a deeper understanding of selected issues related to spiritual service, contemplative work, Buddhist chaplaincy, and pastoral work. And he also goes on to say that this would allow current DTO teachers and priests another venue for continuing to expand their knowledge, skills, and interests. So we had that in mind as being an adjunct to our normal Dharma Studies course. But when it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to meet in person, and also recognizing the fact that we had no active students currently enrolled in the Dharma Studies course, we made the decision to not conduct, or not to attempt to have Zoom equivalents of the physical in-course Dharma Studies program, and instead just to focus on this this other, well, I'm losing my wording here, but the other Dharma training program, sorry. So in order to expand that to be more inclusive to our group, we opened it up to anybody currently active in the Dharmas in the Connecticut Sangha. And we had a total of 15 people opted to participate in that. The 3 recent Dharma Studies graduates in the Virginia Sangha found themselves to be in a similar program to Connecticut in that they had 3 recently graduating students. So the decision was made by all involved for them to be part of that program. So they are now. We have, I think we're a total of seven practices that we're going to have covering these 2 books that we've chosen to study. 3 of the Connecticut graduates are going to facilitate, which involves reviewing the material, coming up with discussion questions, leading a presentation and a discussion on the topic. So 3 of the our Virginia people are going to facilitate, and 3 of the Connecticut people are going to facilitate. So we have great participation. The books that we're focusing on are really, really interesting. The first one is The Buddha in Jail, Restoring Lives, Finding Hope and Freedom by Kong Lu. The dust cover description of it is Lu shares insights into the prisoner's mindset, something with implications for all of us, whether or not we're in a conventional jail. The second book, which we'll be starting next week, is Awake at Bedside, Contemplative Teachings on Palliative and End-of-Life Care. A reviewer's description of this says, this book isn't about sickness or death. It's about diving into the heart of life discovered when we truly meet another person, providing practical support, emotional resonance, and celebration of ordinary sacredness. It's a priceless treasure. Instead of tuition and dana for our practices, i.e. this course, we're accepting contributions and donating them to the Food Share, which is a local food bank. We'll be making a $600 donation to them shortly based on those donations. We've had 2 practices so far this year. Deborah McDonald facilitated the first half of The Buddha in Jail, and Dave Edmonds combined his professional work experience with the second half. Both the presentations were really, really interesting, well done, and very worthwhile. Our second book awaits us. It's longer and will be covered over 5 practices. I myself am currently reading material for next week's practice, as well as the practice that I'll be facilitating in March. And I'm just finding the book to be really, really good and surprisingly powerful. One impression that I have so far of this book is that observing and understanding how to skillfully care for people that are face to face with their mortality brings oneself face to face with one's own mortality. Not only do you learn how to meet them, but you learn how to meet yourself. So finally, I would just like to thank the Connecticut leadership and the national leadership for all that they do to make this possible. You all are living the Bodhisattva ideal, and I thank you. That's it from Connecticut, unless someone else has something to add. Sounds like no.
Thank you, Craig. That was awesome. Anyone has questions for Craig? Okay, so I thought I saw Theo. Theo, are you on? He keeps having technical problems. So he keeps coming in and out. So we'll wait to, when we see him again, we catch him, not let him go, so that he can do the Miami presentation. So while we wait for Theo to allow himself to be caught, let's open it up to our sister Ruth Peel from Virginia. Unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am going to speak on the Virginia. We also have a dovetailing with the North Carolina, so maybe I won't speak as long, and I'll let Dave step in to say something on his North Carolina Sangha too. We have a unique kind of situation with the DTO in our Virginia. Our composite of the Virginia and North Carolina Sanghas, in that we have in Virginia, we have the pre-existing temple and Sangha of Dong Hung Temple. And so for us, the DTO is sort of, I think Elena in one of our phone conferences and us came up with the idea that this is a study Sangha. The DTO for us is a study Sangha. So we really don't have a separate Sangha entity as the DTO. It's kind of an activity of Dong Hung Sangha. So much of what we do is with the Donghung Sangha, with the temple itself. So our activities are very blended with that. That said, there are 3 of us, Dave and Peter and myself, who have been with the DTO program from the beginning. And as Craig said, we are now in year 5. 3 of us completed the 4 years. We started with about 15 people, but they dropped out over the course of the years. But the 3 of us persisted. And are now, graciously invited into the Connecticut Sangha so that we can complete year 5 with a larger group and with more direct guidance in how we are going about the coursework, which is wonderful. And Craig, you did a beautiful job on the books that we're reading, and they're absolutely they're very enlightening and very directive, also inspiring in the ways to unfold the work that we're doing. As a DTO/Donghung Temple Sangha, Donghung has a prison correspondence program that I've been in since before I was aware that DTO had one. So I have been corresponding with inmates for about 5 years now. However, I was very, very, and I keep saying I want to get involved in the DTO one, but there's so much else going on that, to put other things, to carve that time. But the desire is there. So I will, once again, maybe your talk today inspired me enough to make me carve that time and that intent, so that, and maybe bring the inmate that I'm currently corresponding with, maybe would he be able to ease into this program, because we're corresponding with BAUS also, and they're sending books, and we're doing all this, but it's just been through Donghung Temple. Donghung Temple's name and contacts has been distributed to chaplains in the different correctional facilities in this region, just within this region. So if an inmate has an interest, then they contact the temple, and then the monks pass the address and the name on to me. And I'm the one who corresponds with them through the temple. And Donghung keeps a file of the correspondences once they're done. So they have copies of the letters that I received and that I answered.
May I say something?
Yes.
So if you want to, when you get correspondence, and you can, if you want to, you can give them my contact information, and I could send them information about the course, and they can do whatever they want with it.
Okay. All right. So that step 1 would be to give them your information.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I'll send it to you.
Yes, and the inmate that I have right now is making amazing progress and is very real about his struggles that he's facing.
Yeah, great.
In the prison situation. So yes, thank you.
Well, let's do that then. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Great.
And if you could sign up and you could mentor some of those students if you like.
Uh-huh.
And then the
Yes.
So just keep that in mind.
I would like to, yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that we do through Donghung Temple is a food bank. We have an ongoing basket in what we call the shoe room before we go into the temple, and people are putting food in that, and we average between somewhere around 60 pounds of food a month, 40 to 60 pounds of food a month, that we give to the Southeastern Virginia Food Bank. And that's been going on, gosh, there again, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. So, thank you. Another thing that we do that's DTO / Donghong Temple are students from universities that are taking world religion courses or courses in Buddhism per se, and they will come to the temple for tours and interviews. Sometimes now with COVID, this happens by phone, but I'm also, again, fortunately, the one who gets to do this. So I get to meet with a lot of the university students that have varied interests, personally, sometimes merely for the course project, but they always leave fascinated, which is wonderful. Of course, how could they not be, right? With the Dharma. So that's another outreach that the temple, and that because of the DTO, we're the ones that are, asked to do all of these things because of the fact that we are in the DTO program and really are studying to be Dharma teachers. Also, as the Dharma teacher students at Donghong Temple, we have a monthly Buddhism 101 class that is now online only. And it's 101, so we really try to keep whatever our topics are at that level, and that is a challenge too. But topics, range from everything from the Eightfold Noble Path to the precepts to the Four Noble Truths themselves to the Brahma Viharas, to all the different, components that are more readily put into a karma and karma vipaka. We had one on that. So, and they're usually about 9 to 10 students that come to those classes. When they were in person, it was larger. But the beauty, again, which many of you have pointed out, is with Zoom, people can come from all over the place. So we do get students from other places in the country as well. And this is a silver lining on the dark cloud of the virus. It really is, that it really is bringing a more global, expansive reach to things that we are doing. Another interesting thing that has come up relatively recently is that we have some English language classes that we are coaching monks and nuns from around, Vietnamese monks and nuns from around the country, and one of them is actually in India now, living there. So we are coaching them in their English. And of course, being monks and nuns, they're wanting to really learn how to communicate well the Dharma to Westerners. So it's a twofold undertaking, and one is to translate the thoughts as Vietnamese monks and nuns into Western thinking, and I see, and into not only language, verbal language, but the thought processes too. So that's what's happening in Virginia. Along the weekly sessions too. We have weekly sessions, but I won't go into that because I saw the baton come up. So thank you very much. Yes, we're very involved here and very active. And there again, Connecticut, thank you for graciously bringing us into your fold for year 5. Yeah, we're bowing out.
Thank you, Ruth. That was awesome. In the interest of time, we're going to dispense with questions and just hand it over to our brother, David Mitchum from Missouri. Please.
Yeah, so lovely to see you all, and I'm so encouraged hearing all these reports, and I'll try to be brief here. Like Dong Hung in Virginia, our DTO program is integrated with our home temple, Din Quang Temple in Springfield, and just take a moment for me to express gratitude for the continued and really deep support and guidance from our teacher, Tai Chan. He's been incredible during this entire time and during the pandemic especially. So DTO is part of our English-speaking services. We moved online in March. We began live streaming our regular services the Saturday mornings and Wednesday evenings on Facebook. And then we followed that by a Dharma class using Google Meet because we already had access to it. So on the first and third Wednesdays, that's when we have our DTO classes. And the second and fourth Wednesdays, we have Sutra studies. And then we've just added this during the pandemic on fifth Wednesdays, we have a beginning anew ceremony to allow people to start processing grief and frustration and loneliness and everything they've encountered during the pandemic. So we'll be doing that again this month, and that's been really nice. We also have started a daily video practice check-in on YouTube where we have just a short video of inviting the bell, reciting a mindfulness training, hearing a Dharma reading, and sharing the merit. And all these things, Tai Chan has really emphasized the importance of us being consistent, of making an example of the Dharma being available and it being available when people need it. And so we've tried to fulfill that and make it possible for the Dharma to be there when people are ready to access it. This is our second year for our DTO program, so we're all in year 2. We have 20 sessions planned for this year. The pandemic has impacted our DTO participation. We're down from about 12 regular participants to around 6 to 8, plus some irregular attendance from others. But all things considered, that I think that's been a very big success. You know, the schedule changes, technology limitations, and life issues just make it difficult for a lot of us to stay involved. But hopefully we'll be able to rebuild that number again once we're able to be back in person. As far as our community outreach goes, again, this is integrated with our English speaking services at the temple, but since our beginning, we've packed emergency meal kits for homeless and food insecure folks, and then also occasional other donations, you know, food and household items and such. This year, we've packed more than 600 meals, and that's been a wonderful thing. We've also worked together to help one particular homeless person get housing. Teaching-wise, our Saturday classes in March, we began studying metta practice during a pandemic, like how to apply the Buddhist practice in that way. And since July, in response to the continued systemic and cultural racism that plagues our nation, we've been studying mindful of race as a way of trying to apply the Buddhist teachings to ending the suffering caused by racism. If that's interesting to anyone, we are creating a study guide for small groups as we go through that book. So if that's a resource that anyone would like, you can let me know. We're on, I think, ready for chapter 13 of 18. So it's been a very good study. Lots of spiritual care during the pandemic. We get regular inquiries from people who are trying to cope with the stress of the pandemic. So there's been lots of spiritual care in that way, and also death and bereavement. You know, we haven't lost anyone to COVID-19 within our Sangha yet, but it's been family members and friends of our Sangha members. And so really happy to hear about the resources that you all are also developing towards chaplaincy and those things. We also continue to get requests for temple tours. We've only done one of those this year, though. With the Vietnamese community, we gathered together to do flood relief for Vietnamese flood victims with the horrible flooding that's taken place in Vietnam. Our prison visitation, we have a partnership with the Federal Medical Center, a federal prison here in Springfield, but that, like others, has been on hold since the pandemic began. Probably the biggest issue we're facing, as I wrap up here, the biggest issue we're facing as a DTO Sangha is we're still trying to figure out how to prepare lessons and presentations that are both accessible to everyone and that do a faithful job of covering the materials. There's a lot of content, and we're learning that skill. So I appreciate everyone's patience in our group as we continue to figure that out and further continued participation. Also looking forward to we've been talking about maybe having a mentor available to our Sangha to help us figure out how to do DTO in the best way possible. Yeah, and I will put the name of the book in the chat. So that's it for me, unless I've forgotten something. I appreciate you all and our ability to participate in DTO. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. That was a great report. Theo has asked me to read his report to you, and okay, so this is Theo. I have to give up. I keep getting disconnected. Please send my apologies to all DTO. I will try to report on Miami now if I could. Please read for me. Spanish-speaking Sangha meets every Saturday, physically from 10 a.m. to 12. There are 3 students currently on the 2nd year of the DTO studies, and 1 is in the 1st year. The English-speaking Sangha meets Mondays from 6:30 to 8 via Zoom. Sangha members include 1 from the Bronx and another from Connecticut. Isn't that ironic? The rest are, of course, Miami-based. We will continue to meet virtually until further notice. Thank you very much. So that's Theo's report. And of course, I cannot answer questions for Theo, so but I thank him for that succinct report.
Elena?
Yes.
Elena, can I make a request that
Yes.
everyone who presented, if they could just write a brief summary and send it to Janet so she can put it on the newsletter?
Yes.
Just a little summary of what they presented so that we can send it to all the other members of the DTO couldn't be here today.